Good evening and welcome to the first night for the budget. This is first of three sessions, I guess, where the different department budgets will be presented to council. We will have a public hearing after that to gather input from the public. And then I guess council will go from there to decide what is going to be approved and what isn't going to be approved. So I welcome you all here, and I don't know how council wants to handle this, if they want to start asking a bunch of questions right now, or if they just want to go through this. It doesn't matter how they want to do it, so just want to listen to the presentations now, and then well, we'll start, and whatever it ends up, I guess, is what it'll end up.
I'd just soon listen myself, yeah. If that's what you were looking for.
No, I mean, that's, like I say, it's fine if people want to ask questions. I mean, if you don't understand something that's written down here, I guess I mean, there's a couple things that aren't really to do with what we're doing with the budget, but that I didn't understand, so I guess some of those, if you want to clear them up, you can, so. All right, Manager Blease.
All right, thank you everybody for coming tonight. Tonight we present the 2017 proposed 2017 budget and capital improvement plan. The first page of the budget this year is the City of Caribou vision and the mission statement. It's always a good thing to remember what we're here to do as staff and as the council. So on page 3 starts the budget memo for 2017. In 2016, for the second year in a row, the City Council passed a budget that did not increase the amount of taxes raised to run city government. Because the state increased the homestead exemption in 2016, many homeowners saw a decrease in their tax bills. The city levied just under $127,000 less in property taxes in 2016 than we did in 2017 because of the homestead exemption from the state. So while the mill rate increased, it is because the amount of taxes required by the ROC when the county increased and the state changed the homestead exemption. It was not due to city operations. You can see that in the following chart, which shows the property taxes from 2005 to 2016. The county taxes have increased over the years at a relatively stable pace. From 2005 to 2016, the average increase has been approximately $10,000 a year. For 2016, the county made up 5% of our property tax bill here in Caribou. That percentage has remained unchanged for some time. While the city saw a slight decrease in the property taxes collected for the school when Caribou joined RSU 39, we have seen a relatively linear increase in the property taxes for the school since 2010. In 2016, the school made up 42% of the tax bill, which is the same from 2015. It's also important to note once again that the role the reduction in revenue sharing has played on the impact of property taxes as well. For 2016, the city received approximately $965,000 less in revenue sharing than we received in 2008. Since that time, the state has continually raided the revenue sharing program to fund other areas of state government. The graph on the next page shows the direct correlation between reduced revenue sharing and increased property taxes. As you can see, as the revenue sharing has decreased, property taxes have increased. So for the budget here tonight, there are a few common factors that have implications across the variety of city departments. This budget assumes a 10% increase in health insurance costs over the current year. In 2015, we had a loss ratio of 91%, and our rates went up 5% for 2016. In 2014, we had a loss ratio of 74%, and our rates went up 6.69%. For the first half of 2016, our loss ratio was at 135%. So taking all these things into consideration, we're estimating a 10% increase. We won't know our firm increase for health insurance rates until November. And looking over the past 5 years, we have built up a healthy HRA reserve. Those are funds that are set aside for the HRA and haven't been utilized. So for 2017, we're proposing to only fund the HRA at 60% utilization rate, which is about what the usage rate has been the last few years. That'll save us about $26,000 for 2017. Wages for 2017 have been increased by a COLA of 3.5% based upon the union agreements the council has approved. We've also budgeted wage adjustments for non-union employees. This would update the wage and classification scale based upon the latest results of the MMA salary survey. It would bring the midpoint of our wage and classification scale to the average wage of the position based upon the salary survey. The market adjustments are $90,000 in addition to the 3.5% COLA. We are budgeting for heating fuel to be at $1.85 a gallon for the city. For 2016, we budgeted at $1.90. We do not anticipate using the pellet boilers much, if at all, for the upcoming heating season, as pellets are currently at $230 a ton. As 1 ton of pellets is approximately 120 gallons of oil, the break-even point for oil is $1.92 per gallon. Our budget for this last year was certainly helped out by the warmer temperatures that we had all winter long. We are factoring a 3% increased cost for electricity based upon the Emera rate increase they proposed. We are also factoring in a 4% increase for water based upon the rate increase from CUD. As part of the budget memo this year, there are graphs that show the budget total for the department from 2009 to 2015, the 2016 budgeted amounts, and the 2017 request. Please keep in mind that in 2015, that was the first year that retirement and Social Security costs were broken out by departments. So that accounts for a large part of the increase that you'll see in the graphs in the departments where the wages are paid. You'll see a large decrease in the amount in the insurance and retirement department where the costs were previously paid before that. The budget presented here does not take into consideration what could happen at the polls in November. Voters will be asked to raise the minimum wage from $7.50 to $9 per hour effective January 1, 2017. If that's improved, it'll have immediate impacts on our budget, and the minimum wage increases moving forward would impact future years as well. The workers' compensation costs for the city have increased as well. Previously, we had a very good experience modification rate, or experience mod. That's the numeric representation of our claims history and safety record as compared to other municipalities. For experience mods, 1 is considered average, a number less than 1 is considered better than average, a number higher than that is considered higher than average. The lower the number, the better the worker rate comps. For 2016, our experience mod was 0.59. That's in the top 5 best rates for municipalities across the state. The city's done a great job with that. However, in 2016, we had a few workers' comp cases, and that's causing our experience mod to go up to 0.84. That means our workers' compensation costs will increase about $32,000, but we're still better than average for our experience mod. For 2017, we're also breaking out the costs per department for workers' compensation rather than breaking out just the fire and ambulance department and everything else being lumped into Department 70, the insurance and retirement. Last year, the council opted to fund compensated absences and ambulance reserve from undesignated fund balance and chose not to fund the Public Works capital improvement line at all for 2016. As such, we were projecting a budget gap of at least $306,000 for 2017 without making any assumptions for things such as workers' comp, wage adjustments that we negotiated as part of union contracts, and only estimating a 7% health insurance premium increase. I would caution the council against using fund balance again in 2017. While Caribou does not have any specific fund balance policy, the general rule of thumb is a community should have 2 or 3 months of budgeted expenses in fund balance, which equates to the range of 17 to 25% of budgeted expenses. In 2013 and 2014, we had a fund balance of only 10%, and in 2015, we were able to increase that to 14%. We should work to get a fund balance of at least 17% and maintain that. The council should also consider adopting a fund balance policy. The budget presented here tonight would require the city to collect $480,464 more in taxes than what the city collected in 2015. Because of the changes in homestead exemption that the state made for 2016 and 2017, the exempted value of a person's home will be increased to $20,000 from the $10,000 that it was in 2015. And with that, we can get into the budget numbers unless there's questions.
Just a couple things. It's meant the city levied just under $127,000 less in property taxes in 2016 than we did in 2017.
2015, sorry.
And is there any particular reason that we used when we said that the city's going to collect $480,000 more in taxes than we collected in 2015? Should we not be talking about 2016?
We certainly can. We saw a decrease in the tax rate for 2016, so the number of the amount of taxes that we had in 2016 is less than that. So we'd have, if you wanted to do that, be about $127,000 more, which would be 400 or 607,000.
607,000, yeah. Okay.
How many people do you have at minimum wage right now?
Those are mostly the high school age type kids in the parks and the recs department, and I guess I don't have a firm number right off the top of my head as to how many students that would impact. But, right. But yeah, it's all, we don't have any regular part-time or any full-time staff at minimum wage.
Are they all at minimum wage, those, the ones we are in the summer and that?
Higher at minimum wage, and they're up above minimum wage by, some are above it by 25 cents and others are above it by $1.30.
Yeah, okay.
I got about 8 of them right now
Yeah.
at that range. And it obviously increases in the summertime.
clerks would get paid minimum wage also.
No, that's true. Yeah. That's not a lot of time though either.
No, it's not.
All right. Carry on.
All right. So the first page is just a summary sheet of historical expenditures with the 2012 to 2014 average, 2015 budgeted and year end, the 2016 approved budget, what we spent year to date, which is as of the end of September, and the 2016 estimated year end numbers along with the 2017 budget request. On the next page, we break it down into a pie graph so people can easily visualize how much is spent in each department. Some of the largest departments, Public Works at 22.7%, the Fire and Ambulance Department at 24.4%, and the Police Department at 15.4% of the overall city budget. And then on the page after that, just another graph here, just showing the whole the budget as a whole for the general fund and the various departments, so you can visualize in another way the impact of the departments. Moving along to page 9. General government. It's important to remember that in 2013 the Community Development Department was eliminated and those costs were moved into the General Government Department. In General Government we have the staff as follows: the City Manager, who also serves as the Economic Development Director at 50% of my time, the Executive Assistant to the City Manager, the Assistant City Manager, who's also the Code Enforcement Officer and the Human Resources Director, the City Clerk, who is also the General Assistance Administrator and the Registrar of Voters. 70% of her time is in this department. The Deputy City Clerk, who is also the Deputy General Assistance Administrator and the Deputy Registrar of Voters. 85% of her time is accounted for in this department. A cashier or municipal agent, the Finance Director, who is also the Treasurer and the Tax Collector, the Deputy Tax Collector and the Finance, who is also the Finance Assistant, and the Deputy Treasurer / Payroll and Accounts Payable Clerk is also in this budget. So the salary line is up in General Government. The wage adjustments discussed previously are $24,059 of the increase. As per the city charter, we've gone out to bids for the annual audit. We have to go out to bids every 3 years. We are still reviewing the proposals and checking references, but the amount budgeted for that line could change slightly. Hosted services line 008-02 is staying the same. We are budgeting to provide all city councilors with a city email address. Councilors having a city email address exclusively for city business is strongly recommended by MMA Legal. That's because it makes it easier to comply with open records and records retention laws. So it is our intention to start that in January. Under travel expenses, 010-01 and meals and lodging 10-02, we are increasing these expenses. Most of these increases will be in reimbursed, so the revenue line will be adjusted accordingly. The council should really consider and revisit the policy that requires reimbursements to go into a revenue line rather than back into an expense line. There are quite a few times during the year where we will share hotel rooms with other communities, that type of thing. So sometimes the costs are not quite, they look higher than what they really are because we get reimbursed for those. Training and education, line 11-02 is up to account for the increased trainings that are required for HR and code enforcement. Election costs, lines 12-01 and 12-02 are based upon 2 school elections, a school referendum which is anticipated for February or March, and the June budget referendum and the November election. At the moment, phone services, line 15-04 are budgeted at the same level. This cost may change as the phone contract has ended and we are negotiating new services and likely better prices to go along with that. The website line 17-01 is eliminated as we did a multi-year service plan. This will need to be funded again in 2019, but until that point we're set. Health insurance numbers, line 18-01 is based upon the projected 10% increase in rates. Rate increases will not be known until November. Workers' comp, line 34-01 is now being separated into the various departments rather than it being all lumped into one. Overall, the general government budget for the 2017 request is about $52,000 higher than 2016. For capital improvements, we're looking at to put away $8,000 for the computer reserve. Excuse me. We're going to be replacing the servers, some switches, firewalls, and Creo software upgrades. We'll also be upgrading 3 computers. We're also setting aside $2,000 to continue updating our vital records restoration program. And we've earmarked $2,500 towards the fleet vehicle replacements. We'll be looking to replace one of the fleet vehicles at some point in 2017 when we can find a good deal on GSA.
The city councilors, there's no cost to providing them with a city email address, is there?
With the hosted services that we use, it'd be about $3 a month per email address.
So how would we would have to be connected to the server here to get onto that?
No, you'd log in through a web portal.
Okay.
Or if somebody had an iPad or something like that that they wanted their email set up on, we could set it up on there for them.
Your phone.
Right, a phone. Yeah.
I agree that we should have a reimbursement line in the revenue side there on all these expenses. I didn't realize we were still taking it out of the expense account.
No, we aren't. It's all going into the revenue line, the reimbursements that we get. So it looks, for example, for the meals and lodging, it looks like we've well overspent that line. The revenue side is up higher than we budgeted for there as well. So it all washes out, but it looks like we spent a lot more than we really did.
That website line is not expensive, is it?
$381 is what we spent in this
For
year.
3 years or something, yeah.
Right.
Anything else? All right. Next.
So the next is health and sanitation. Currently, we're budgeting a 2% increase in our tip fee for tri-community. The final amount won't be known until November. Health officer receives a $500 stipend each year. Currently, Chief Susie serves as our health officer. That's the only things in the health and sanitation budget.
Just one comment here, quick. When I look at health insurance in some of the departments and I look at what we're projecting it to be the end of this year, there's not a 10% increase there for next year's budget.
So there's a number of things that go into that. The HRA amounts are different, and if people are going to be selecting different plans, some departments we've seen changes in, like Public Works, for example. If that person had a family plan and people we are going to be hiring, or vice versa, have just a single. So there's a few different things like that that could change those numbers.
Yeah, I just noticed in the general government one right off the bat, it looks like maybe we took a 10% increase from last year's budget, not what it's gonna actually be.
Right. So 124,000 is what we budgeted for. We're projecting the year-end estimate of 132,000. So the 10%, we haven't gotten all of the forms. We don't know what the rates are going to be, so people can change their elections. This is assuming, in this case, I'm guessing this was assuming the election words were to stay the same, but we can find that answer out.
I don't think you're following what I'm saying. It looks like we didn't budget enough last year, based
This year,
on what we're
if
saying
I'm-
our year end's gonna be.
If I'm not mistaken, and Jim, if you can help me out with this, I think we had one person in general government switch plans from a single to a family, which means the premiums were increased.
Yes, and we had one employee had a spouse. We had another employee, that was right, that, general government, we had an employee had a spouse. We had another employee come onto our insurance when their spouse's coverage changed at the school district. We had several firefighter and all police officers get married and have their spouses this fall. So there have been a number of changes that are fairly fluid. And
Yeah, I understand that. All I'm saying is, we're saying that this year we're gonna spend $132,617 on health insurance in the general fund, general government. We're saying our rates are gonna go up 10%. If you take 10% of that, it means it would be 145 or 146,000. And in our 2017 budget, we have 136,000, which is 10% of our budgeted number, not what our actual is gonna be.
So the
I don't know if that's all through this or
The
what.
HRA amounts, we're only funding those at 60% for this year, so that's going to play a role in these numbers. It's not going to be a straight 10% that you're going to see in the budgets. And we know of at least a few changes, at least one change for 2017, and who's selecting a single plan or a family plan. So
But we know the HRA rates, so wouldn't we have taken them out already and made that adjustment when we did this? No?
that's factored into here, but that's why it's not going to show us straight 10% across, because the HRA rates, along with the health insurance premiums, make up those
What
lines.
was the HRA rate last year?
So it's $600 for a single plan and $1,200 for.
Percentage wise? You said 60%. It must have been greater last year.
We budgeted at 100%. So this year,
Okay.
we're budgeting 60% at $600 for a single plan.
Well, we'll see.
Those numbers vary from POS 200 to POS
Right.
500, and they also vary dramatically for public works.
Correct.
They're higher, their numbers are higher, so.
Okay, well, we'll see how it ends up. Yeah,
On health and sanitation, you have, where did it go? You're anticipating year end to be 144,000, and then you're asking for 200.
Right.
It just doesn't seem to.
So for the 2016, rather than taking
that's where that $100,000 came back.
Okay.
a check from Tri Community, we use that to offset our
Lower the
tip
rates.
fees.
Okay.
Tip fees.
Yeah,
Wage and classification. $90,000 above and beyond any salary increase.
Above the 3.5 COLA. Yep.
I wish you wouldn't say COLA. I know I'm not getting 3.5% increase on my social security.
Is there a different term you would prefer us to use?
Increase, I guess.
3.5% increase. We can make that change for the future budget memo.
Anyway, I'd like to see you go back to those 20 towns that you used and find the average wage for firemen, policemen, public works people, and teachers and nurses. And then maybe we can talk about adjustments.
Teachers and nurses. I'm not sure how we would come up with the nurses' wages for those communities.
Okay, do the teachers then.
I would think the hospital probably could get them.
They don't all have a hospital. That's probably what.
Right.
Where we at, municipal building?
So municipal buildings, the electricity rates are anticipated to go up based upon the increased filings by Emera. Heating fuel for both the Lions building, line 25-01, and City Hall 26-02 are based upon the average fuel usage from the last 3 years at a rate of $1.85 a gallon. Building supplies 31-01 is up slightly with the increased janitorial services at the police department and more activity at the Nylander. We'll see an increased need for supplies. Overall, the department is still below the 2016 budget. For capital improvement projects for municipal buildings, we're requesting $45,000. This will be $30,000 for new flooring and painting in the police department, $15,000 to fix the siding on the old host tower. We're still trying to get better quotes. These are just our estimates at the moment. We're also looking to replace the roof on the stairwell on the east side of City Hall. We had some leakage issues the past few years. It's recommended that we get that roof replaced. We're also requesting $31,500 for the roof at the Lions building, which is in need of a replacement for 2017. And we continue to put away funds for the parking lot reserve as well. This reserve was originally set up to cover parking lots at all municipal buildings and the other municipally owned parking lots.
We've been putting money aside for that roof on the Lions building.
No, we haven't.
I don't think so. Anything else there? We got tax assessing or well,
General assistance?
general assistance.
So the above graph on page 23 shows the drastic decline in general assistance dollars spent by the city of Caribou from 2009. Caribou used to have one of the highest GA budgets in the state, but that has dramatically improved. So in general assistance, we have 0.45 FTE. The breakdown is as follows: the city clerk, general assistance administrator, and registrar of voters. 30% of her time is here, and the deputy city clerk, deputy general assistance administrator, deputy registrar of voters. 15% of her time is here. The only major change from 2016 to 2017 is the general assistance line 53-01. Based upon the trends of 2016, we're lowering the request for 2017 to $39,500.
Fairly straightforward. Tax assessing.
Tax assessing has two full-time staff: the tax assessor, who is also the building official, who is also the deputy code enforcement officer, and the deputy tax assessor, who is the deputy building official and the deputy code enforcement officer. In 2016, the code department and assessing departments were combined. That's why there was a large increase from 2015 to 2016. Salary line is up in tax assessing. The wage adjustments discussed previously are at $5,958 of the increase. We also pay our licensed plumbing inspector, the LPI, out of this line. We're anticipating an increase in the rate from him, which contributes to the line increase as well. In 2016, we opted to pay overtime for the deputy tax assessor rather than to allow comp time to be accumulated. This was done to ensure better coverage for the office and not allow massive amounts of leave to be accumulated. We're continuing to do this for 2017 as it has worked out pretty well. The mileage line, line 10-01, is being increased this year. Mileage for our LPI is paid out of this line. This line also pays for travel expenses such as flights, rental cars, and the like when there's necessary travel for trainings. We anticipate a week-long International Code Council ICC course for the building official in 2017. This also contributes to the small increase in the meals and lodging expenses, line 10-02. The state will be updating codes at some point later this year or early next year, so the code maintenance line 58-01, is increased to account for that. We have created a line for clothing allowance, line 70-03, and put $900 into it for 2017. Code enforcement officers, building officials are required to make visits to construction sites. We should be investing in a uniform look for the department in the form of a jacket. It's also a good idea to invest in appropriate footwear for the construction visits. Currently, this department has only one hard hat and one vest, so each team member should have properly fitting safety equipment. When it comes to capital improvements for tax assessing, we're budgeting $20,000 for the parcel information updates. This is the fund where we will be paying for the quarterly updates as we're able to do them. It'll also begin to help us to start saving up for the next reevaluation whenever that may occur. We're also requesting $500 towards the computer reserve for assessing.
How much overtime does a deputy tax assessor put in the course of a year?
Are you looking for a number of hours?
Yeah, or
I don't know that answer right offhand, but I can look that
you
up for
know
tomorrow.
money-wise, what?
For
Right in
2016 year-to-date, we
Okay.
spent $1,427
What's-
on overtime.
Okay.
Budget to spend $1,700. Anything else on assessing? Library.
Overall, the library department is only slightly higher from 2016 to 2017. A few lines under the office supplies have been modified slightly. Office supplies line 3-08 is based upon historical numbers. Travel expenses line 10-05 are up due to the fact we'll have a new library director. They'll likely need a bit more training. Library staff is as follows: the library director, who is the only full-time person at the library, a children's librarian for 29 hours a week, and circulation librarians, all of them part-time, for a total of 56 hours. For capital improvements, we are looking at either replacement windows or the addition of storm windows at the library in 2017. We're setting aside $20,000 for this project. For the computers, we're looking to replace the circulation computer and the library director computer. The library continues to play a large role in the community and assist in the overall mission of the city. Before our library director, Lisa Shaw, left to take her new position with the Maine State Library, she wrote the following information for the council to consider during the budgeting process. I don't know if one of the library board members would like to read that, or if they wanted me to read that tonight, but
Let you read.
Well, I think the council's read it all already. Are we affected in the library by what are the circulation librarians get paid? They're not at minimum wage, are they?
No, for 2017 we would be okay. They would be just above the new minimum wage if that were to go into effect. For 2018, we'd have to increase all of them.
Okay. Any questions on the library? Fire and ambulance, that next? Or am I missing one here now? I don't.
So we can certainly move along to the fire and ambulance. I don't know if the council wants to give the library board an
Oh, they want to
opportunity
read it. Well, we've all read it. I don't care if somebody wants to get up and read it, get up and read it.
Are we able to?
Was it? No, I'm sorry, go ahead. Is this the time for public input? Well, one of our directors has to.
No, the public input, this is the informational sections on the budgets, and then when we're done with these, we have one night that is public input, correct?
By charter, we should be taking public input throughout this whole process.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Give us some public input.
Thank you. Guess I don't want to hold up the proceedings, but the reason why we have such a gathering here of our library trustees is that right now we are absent a librarian. Austin is our librarian pro tem and has been doing a very good job. I must be doing well on my way up here from my office to notice that the library parking lot is full. You couldn't squeeze another car in there right now. So things are busy today at the library. We are here tonight, 5 of the library trustees, 5 of the 7. The other 2 weren't able to make it. Just simply to be the public face of the library. The purpose of library trustees is to be an advisory board. Our job is to protect and advance the interests of the broader community by effectively governing the operations and promoting the development of the local library. Again, we are without a librarian in this budget season, so we felt that our responsibility should be to work with the city council this year as the board of trustees to try to make sure that there's financial support to provide for a meaningful public library program. And again, with the idea of keeping things brief, I'd like to commend City Manager Glees on what is a budget that represents a modest increase from last year. And I think it bears pointing out that in the draft that you provided with the library budget summary, in 2012, the recent high point in library budget was about $290,000. And it has decreased to the low water mark in 2015. The budget is approximately $210,000. And that's a 27.5% decrease from that high point in 2012. The library is holding its own. I think it's a mainstay of the community. It's very popular. It's highly used. We are running lean and mean right now. So we are very much in favor of the budget that's been proposed for the library. And we have the 1 full-time staff and many part-time people and also many volunteers. And I think it's worth noting that current function of the library is dependent upon many volunteers, folks that take their time to come out and work on a fairly regular schedule. And we're very appreciative of those folks. I won't read the entirety of Lisa's, our former director's, letter. Again, you folks have already read it. But I think it bears noting that our library has several core functions, which are reading and information services. People come in and check out books and magazines and learn about things. But the other things that she highlighted, I think, bear repeating. The first is that a library is especially our library, is a physical gathering place for community groups, such as book clubs, writers groups, genealogical society, community support groups. It's a physical workspace for remote workers and independent contractors who need reliable, high-speed internet, an environment friendly to long-term use that's handy to other amenities such as restaurants and stores. And within the last year, the Wi-Fi has been considerably upgraded. It's a fantastic service. It's something the community should be proud of. It's a safe and creative space for children and families to learn, explore, and perform community service. And then the last point, the last major point that she made is one that I think is a trend that is following, libraries are following nationally, in that you're expanding beyond just the traditional books, magazines, and information services into technology offerings. So right now we have the Wi-Fi hotspots that you can check out. So if you're in a rural area, you can use this to get on the internet. We've got some robotics materials, some laptops that circulate, some very nice scanning equipment. There's a great big full-size scanner that can scan large plats. In fact, in the library archives, we are housing the collected survey records of the Hardison family that were donated to Humpy years ago, and then Humpy felt we ought to have them, and the local surveyors have been making use of those. And lastly, we just installed a 3D printer, and that is in its infancy stages, where people will actually be able to design things within a 3D program and actually print it out in physical plastic and have it as a functioning object. So the library is key to the community. We think this is a very fair budget, very good budget, and supportive of it. And we just wanted to show the flag tonight as your Board of Trustees.
While you're here and all the board members, I don't know about the rest of council, but, you know, there is a lot of funds, there's a lot of library funds, different memorial funds and so on. Are those all dedicated to for a specific reason or a specific thing? I mean, I've seen them ever since I've been on council here. Every month when I look at the financials, I see all of these funds, and not very many of them ever change.
A lot of those, and Lisa would be able to give you the detail on those if she was here. There are a lot of those that are restricted. There are some that are specific for audiobooks, for example. Somebody left money for that. There are some for certain types of periodicals. I think there's very few that are unrestricted.
Yeah.
And what we try to do with those memorial accounts, as we call them, is shepherd them and use them for the extras. And what very often you'll see in requests is generally these are gifts that come when people pass away.
Yeah.
And they make that notation in their will, or the family members will make a gift on their behalf. Very often there's a stipulation that those funds not be used to offset the public expense of running.
Yeah, no, I can understand that, yeah.
It's for the extras. So we're wanting to guard those funds. But a recent use of some of the memorial funds is the redecoration of the Clara Piper room. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we bought the furniture and the window dressings.
The young adults room and also the chiropractor, along with the road that's down there. So when we knew we were getting new carpeting, we need to get rid of some rather disgusting, dirty, gross, I can go on, furniture. And so we kept it in town, and the furniture store gave us a good deal. And that, all of that came from a memorial fund that was not designated for any one or two purposes.
Wanda, do you have a list of what the funds are for?
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
3
you
years
do?
ago, we provided that to the council, and we can do that again.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're all.
I'm just
restricted.
curious, because like I say, and I kind of thought, well, maybe they just use the interest from these funds or something. And
No,
don't,
we've got the ability, I think, on most of the funds to be able to dip into the principal. I think the balance is we want to maintain a healthy fund balance.
yeah,
But
no,
we
I
don't
understand
wanna,
that.
and not use it for the purposes it was intended. I think we want the public to know that if they do leave funds to the library, that we are gonna be good stewards of those monies. So, you know, we don't go to it very often. Only for those extras, and I think the reading room really shows how those monies can be utilized for very good specific purposes that just enhance the program.
Yeah.
It's a nice setup.
All right, well, thank you very much.
I just want to add one question.
Yeah.
Are the majority of those funds conditional, or they have no conditions?
Majority of them are.
She said they are?
What she said, yeah.
Okay, all right, that's okay, thank you.
Well, the sheet that was sent out about 3 years ago, like I said, had all that information on it. We'll send that out to the council again.
Also, some of us didn't realize there were memorial funds. I had been on the board for more than a year before I found that out. And when I found out we had as much as we did, I sat down with our former director and said, why are we sitting on this money? And so we started to, as a board, look at those memorial funds and say, okay, how can we not sit on these? How can we spend these for the best of the community as well as the library? And so it also, that outlook on memorials changed with library programs. So if you go back 3 years to current, you'll see some changes in some of those
Yeah.
because we have been spending those to enhance what we're already doing, not as part of the budgetary item, but just to enhance.
And I guess my question with those two, because I did know that most of them are slotted for specific things. But at the same time, I know what's going on at the library and how things are moving forward with technology and everything else when you start talking about 3D printers and so on and so forth. And I asked myself the question, well, are some of these funds slotted for things that we may never ever now require them for because of the way the library, the direction it's moving in?
I don't know.
No. Okay.
I think maybe the one limit would be the audio tapes. I think there's one specifically for audio tapes. We've interpreted that to mean CDs, you know, and other forms
Yeah,
of audio.
you better interpret it to mean something more than CDs even now.
Eight
Because
tracks
that's
and
about
cassettes
done
are kind of
too.
out of the mix now. But, so we want.
Downloads, you can do for downloads or something maybe.
Yeah, well, actually, we are part of a service where if you've got a library card, you can download books to your device. It's
Yep.
such a fantastic service. Doesn't cost you a thing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Fire and ambulance.
So in this department, we have the following staff: the chief, the administrative assistant, 15 firefighter paramedics, and 2 ambulance billers. We also budget for summer help, which is typically 3 people to work 3 to 4 months in the summertime. Salary line is increased due to the 3.5% increase the council agreed to in the union contracts. There is a wage adjustment of $7,156 for the non-union employees. Overtime is up based upon the salary increase and historical numbers. Overtime in 2016 has been abnormally high because we've had 3 different employees be out on medical leave for extended periods of time. One of those was a workers' comp claim, and the money for that went back to the expense line. We did not have 3 summer help this year either. Those 2 reasons are why the salary line is under for 2016. Health insurance line 18-01 is only up slightly from 2016. We've had a few retirements in the department, which has changed the health insurance plan and makeup for this year, which is why the projected is to be about $23,000 under for the budget next year. Building maintenance line 31-01 is up due to the age of the building and more things needing repair. Bad debt line 82-01 is staying the same. But we switched companies that we've used to collect bad debt. The old company would deduct what our payments to them would be from the amount they send to us. Our new company sends us a bill. So we've budgeted for a collection fee, which is line 82-02 for the first time in 2017. For capital improvements, we are requesting $100,000 for the fire equipment reserve. Last year, the council reduced the amount of money set aside in this reserve account. We'll need to replace engine 1 in 2018 at an estimated cost of $450,000. We're also requesting $500 for the fire hose reserve. We'll be replacing hose in 2017 and plan on replacing hose over the next 3 years after that. We are continuing to set aside funds for foam as well. The fire training building will need new doors in 2017. We have enough money in hand to cover those expenses, but we'll need to replenish the fund for other needs there starting in 2018. The furnace replacement account has a negative balance in it. We're budgeting $3,811 to zero out that account. We plan on replacing computers and tablets in the department in 2017 and are budgeting $3,000 for that. We have a good computer replacement schedule for the department, which is necessary as more and more things become digital in the fields of fire and EMS. In 2018, we'd like to upgrade our dispatch area to include monitors for GIS mapping and speakers, so we're budgeting $2,400 for that in each of the next 2 years for the project. The fire small equipment account is being budgeted at $10,000. Chief Susi was able to secure a grant for $50,000 for 2 sets of JAWS equipment, which has reduced the need for a higher budget amount in that line. We continue to put aside money for building repairs at the fire station. In 2017, we'll be doing some work in the bathroom areas. We'll be replacing 4 stretchers and suction units in the ambulances in 2017. As such, we're budgeting $20,000 for the ambulance small equipment reserve. We'll also be purchasing a stair chair for the ambulance and are budgeting $750 for that. Council has approved the purchase of an ambulance with delivery in 2017. As such, we've budgeted $122,000 for that purchase. Last year, the council decided not to fund the ambulance reserve and instead move funds from fund balance into that reserve account. As the council can see on the capital improvement sheet, we will be replacing another ambulance in 2019. After that, we'll be able to remount the units at a lower cost than an actual replacement.
Questions? Police Department.
So for the police department, the staff is as follows. The police chief, 2 sergeants, 12 patrol officers, an executive assistant, janitor at 10 hours a week, and animal control officer for 10 hours a week. Salary line 01-01 is based upon the union contracts that have been approved. There is also a wage adjustment of $14,790 in the salary line for non-union employees. Overtime line 1-02 is up slightly as there is overtime required every week. We are also anticipating having to send 2 officers to the police academy in 2017. The training line 11-02 has been increased as we are required to buy extra ammo and send that along with our officers when they go to the academy. In the janitor line 68-01, we are adding $6,500 for our weekly cleaning from the same cleaning company that cleans the rest of City Hall. The vehicle repair line 73-01 is increased by $1,000. As our fleet of squad vehicles gets older, we're finding more repairs that need to be done to them. The dog constable line 90-01 is increased by $760. For the past few years, we've been able to have a volunteer to handle these issues, but the agreement is coming to an end, so we're looking to hire somebody for that position. And we're able to reduce the uniform maintenance line 97-01 as we're moving away from the dry cleaning uniforms to more wash and wear uniforms. For capital improvements, we're continuing the small equipment reserves to request to purchase bulletproof vests and guns on the rotating schedule that we've been on for several years now. Guns are replaced every 7 years and bulletproof vests are replaced on a rolling basis, with no vest going more than 5 years as per the manufacturer's specs. So that request is a total of $4,000. We're continuing the replacement schedule of the squad vehicle on an annual basis, which costs approximately $30,000 for the vehicle and another $2,000 for the light bar, the cage, and the other necessary equipment. We're continuing the computer replacement practice and allocating $4,320 for this. We're also proposing $10,000 to digitize files in the police department and City Hall. As the council stated, they would like to have things cleaned up in the police department. Digitizing some of the paper records will help make more space there.
Questions? Protection.
In 2013, the city stopped paying itself for ambulance protection. That's why there's a large drop from 12 to 13. The street light line is line 105-01 is up by 3% over the projected year end. Hydrant fees 106-01 is up 3.5% based upon the rate increase from CUD. For capital improvements, we're requesting $50,000 to be set aside for the conversion to LED streetlights. We anticipate the total cost of the project to be somewhere approximately $300,000. This is based upon what the communities in Southern Maine have budgeted and that they're looking at. So when the conversion is completed, we should be able to save about $50,000 to $75,000 per year after taking future CIP contributions into consideration.
Is that, on the street lights, is that putting us back to where we were before we shut them off, or is that current?
That includes all of them that we started with in 2013. So the 100 that we turned off would be brought back as LEDs.
Okay, thank you.
Why?
Because that's what the council said at that time, and if the council wishes to change that, they certainly can have that discussion.
I'd like to have that discussion.
the total cost of that project, also 300,000, is that just cost of the streetlights, or is that installation, or do we have to pay anything with that, or?
Right, so that would be some engineer field studies to be done, making sure that we've got proper lighting lumens at the various intersections and that type of thing. It would be the purchase of the streetlights. It would also be the installation of the streetlights, paying Amero or someone to take off the lights that are there and put the new ones up.
The only reason I say that is because we're talking 300,000, we're saying it's gonna save us $50,000 to $75,000 per year. And I know I read something not that long ago that said these lights, installing these lights in the community is about a 10-year payback.
I'm not sure where you read that, so I guess I couldn't comment on the specifics of that community. And it depends greatly upon whether or not the utility owns the lights or if the city owns the lights. If the city owns the lights, which this would propose us to do, it would be it's a better payback versus just having a mayor buy the lights and own and operate them.
All right. Anything else? What are we at next here?
Emergency management, page 71.
Yep, okay.
So this is down slightly from last year. The police chief serves as the emergency management director and receives a stipend as such. That's what the salary line in 1-1 pays for. The rent line 108-01 that is charged is partially reimbursed from the state, which is reflected in revenues as well. Otherwise, there's really no changes in emergency management.
Public Works.
For 2017, we're proposing the following public works staff: the public works director, the foreman, 3 equipment operators, 3 mechanics, 8 truck drivers, and 1 part-time general maintenance / janitor position. In 2016, the office manager position was eliminated. In 2015, a truck driver position was eliminated. For 2017, we're requesting 1 truck driver position to be brought back into the budget. We're factoring in the 16 hours a week for a general maintenance / janitor position to do janitorial duties, tank integrity readings, mowing the lawn, and other projects. This is offset by the removal of the janitor line, line 271-01. The salary line is up in Public Works with the addition of the truck driver position and the salaries. The wage increase negotiated as part of the union contract is also in the line, and there's also a $19,273 budgeted for salary adjustments. Health insurance line 18-01 is up as we anticipate different plan choices from new employees that are filling currently vacant positions. The electricity lines, items in line 27 and the following there are all up by 3.5 because of the Amera increases as discussed earlier. The equipment maintenance line 51-05 is up slightly as we are seeing an increase in the costs of the parts required for the equipment. Clothing allowance line 70-03 is up by $2,000 as part of the union contract changes. The line 70-06 is eliminated because of the changes as well, so overall that is less than 2016. The tire lines, line 74-03 and 74-04 are different this year. We need rear tires for the backhoe and tires for the 3 trucks. The diesel fuel line 76-01 is figured at 45,000 gallons at a price of $2.15 per gallon. For 2016, we figured the price to be $2.50 per gallon and 48,000 gallons. Salt line 116-01 is up for 2016. We'll be paying $80.05 per ton for 1,800 tons. This is up from the $74.18 per ton that we paid this year. Liquid de-icer line 16-02 is up slightly for 2017. We're planning to buy 17,500 gallons at a price of $1.55 per gallon. We're budgeting for both asphalt and chip seal in 2017. In 2012, the average condition of asphalt roads in the city were at an 85% and chip seal roads were at an 86%. Today, the average condition of asphalt roads are 83% and chip seal roads are at 79%. If we do no asphalt in 2017, the average condition would drop to approximately 81%. The chip sealing that we are looking to do in 2017 is 9.5 miles. For that, we'll need 1,950 tons of crushed stone, line 118-01, at a price of $14.50 per ton. We will also need 50,160 gallons of liquid asphalt, line 119-01, at a price of $3.25 a gallon. In 2016, it was $2.76 per gallon, and this is a total of $191,304. Based upon these estimates, at this time, we're planning on doing the following roads next year: the Balls Road, the Brissett Road, Dow Siding Road, Shirley Drive, Plant Road, Bellier Road, Doyle Road, Richards Road, Campground Road. This list of roads could certainly change based upon the winter months that we have. We are also looking to do 2.5 miles of asphalt in 2017, which is the length we typically do. That would require 2,700 tons, and we're estimating a price of $77 per ton for a total of 208,700. Based upon these estimates, we plan on doing the following roads next year: Crosby Avenue, Bradley Street, Franklin Street, Pilgrim Road, Farrell Street, Caroline Avenue, Church Street, Dahlgren Street, Liberty Street, Lynn Drive, Patton Street, Pond Street, and Veronica Street. Once again, this list of roads could certainly change over the winter months as well. The sand account, line 131-01, remains unchanged for next year at 4,200 yards at $10 a yard. Municipal maintenance, line 132-01, is based upon costs for the weed control, and we are proposing to eliminate the janitorial service for 2017, line 271-01, and bring a janitor back on staff as discussed earlier. For capital improvements, we're requesting $75,000 for equipment reserve. We plan on purchasing a new front row 4x4 pickup and new sweeper wings. Last year, the council decided not to fund this reserve account at all. We're also requesting $19,482 to help us clean up the Grimes Mill Road engineering line from the project back in 2012. For the streets and roads reconstruction, we're requesting $25,000. Over the next several years, we'll be replacing some large culverts, and we are looking ahead to needing some funds to cover any city costs that will be associated with the High Street project when the state does that. We are not budgeting anything additional for fuel tank replacements right now, but that is a project that should be completed in 2017. The tanks need to be removed and new fuel tanks put into service in 2018 at the latest. Given the large number of fuel tanks across the state that need to be replaced in 2018, we feel we could get better prices in 17 than waiting another year. As of the end of September, we have $97,500 in the reserve account for this project. We anticipate the project to be in the neighborhood of $150,000 to do. Currently, we add 10 cents per gallon to the cost of fuel, which is put into the reserve account. This generates between $12,000 and $15,000 per year. We do utilize a WEX fuel card program currently when we have to fill up the vehicles while traveling downstate. We could utilize those cards permanently and not replace the fuel farm at Public Works. This costs us about 15 cents a gallon more than what we pay when we fill up at Public Works. So for example, if the cost of a gallon of fuel at Public Works is $1.70, which includes the 10 cents added in to pay for the tank replacement, that gallon of fuel at a service station would be approximately $1.85. Taxes are not included in any of these prices as we're tax exempt. For just Public Works diesel fuel line, that would be approximately $7,000 for the year. Of course, if we put the fuel out for bid, we might be able to save a little bit more than that, than what is projected, but it'd be doubtful if we could purchase the fuel for 10 cents above cost like we do today. If we do move away from filling up Public Works, we would want to do some cost-benefit analysis to see how much extra time and money that would cost us in staff time. That would depend upon where we would be filling up. Since a large portion of the diesel fuel is used for plowing, that means a lot of the time spent fueling would be in the winter months during snowstorms and would be most likely paying overtime. It's not just Public Works that uses the fuel system, but all of the city vehicles, the fire trucks, ambulances, police cars, etc., are all filled up at this location. Cary Medical Center, the RSU, and Cary Utility District also use the system.
Any questions?
I have a couple of questions. I went back last year, Dave, and looked, and it said for 2016 we are not planning on doing any asphalting, and instead we are planning on doing chip sealing. This will save $54,000. However, for 2017, the plan to do asphalt again, which means the 2017 will need to see the $54,000 put back into the budget at that time. But we did,
So,
right? We did pay.
so for 2016, we budgeted for the chip sealing alone, which is about $50,000 less than the asphalt for the amounts we want to do. But in 2016, we had money
Okay,
that didn't get used out of 15.
so that's why you,
That's why we
okay.
chip sealed this year. This 2016 was the chip seal year.
But you also
But
paid.
we also paved with money out of 2015's budget.
Okay.
Because the paving company did not come to town.
Okay, now, I thought when we talked about chip sealing and paving, weren't we gonna chip seal these side streets? Weren't we gonna chip seal these instead of paving them? And then pave like the more heavily used streets?
So, in my recollection, it was, let's try to chip seal on some of the less trafficked roads, which is what we have been doing.
Yeah, but I think there was one here that's maybe got 2 or 3 houses on it that was paved. And I guess I'm just wondering, like some of these, the little side streets and stuff, I really did. I felt, in fact, I tried to go back to look at the minutes from like 2015, and but they're not there for some reason. Some of them are popping up and it said it's not available to see what we talked about. But I did think, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that we were gonna chip seal some of the side streets.
So one of the things that we talked about as a group, that if we are going to chip seal some of the in-town streets, one of the very first considerations is the integrity of what is there. Is it good enough to sustain just a chip seal, or does it need to have the asphalt put back on? It really all depends on the condition or what's there when you get there. Sometimes we put asphalt on a side street because there's so much deterioration that the chip seal won't
Chip
stick.
seal won't do it, okay.
The other thing that we have learned too, because we've done a couple different places, Limestone Street was chip sealed on top of the asphalt. And Powers Road from Route 89 up to and including the Baird Hill, that used to be in pavement and now it's in chip seal. And what we're finding is that the chip seal seems to stick really well to itself because the surface is really porous. It's not quite as good as we had hoped for, putting the chip seal on top of the asphalt. We're not having real great results for the chip seal that's on top of paved roads.
So why don't you grind it a little?
So the only grinding is you have to, is about $3 a square yard. For when you're doing the grinding, that's only pays for the grinding, it doesn't count the,
Yeah, but what about a machine that just pokes holes in it for better binding? I mean, just like an aerator you would put on a lawn.
they don't make that for asphalt. It's either grind the surface, and with them big grinders, with the big conveyor belts, we've all seen them. We used them downtown 2 years ago when we did the downtown project. When they grind, they pulverize, they actually send it right up a conveyor belt, it goes in the truck, and then they can adjust for a half an inch or an inch or whatever you want for a finished product, but that is really, really rough. So that's not gonna be an option. Not to mention the expense. By the time you start chip sealing and paying for grinding and paying to haul the product off, you might as well just have paid it. I'm not saying that not all applications are smart. I'm not.
I just can't figure out how we got away for hundreds of years with chip seal and whatever.
Have you gone down to take a look at Limestone Street or any of them streets that was chip sealed? I mean,
I've been on Limestone Street many times. I've been on the Powers Road several times this summer. I didn't notice any.
So on the Powers Road, we got 3 years life out of that, and then the rest of the road was scheduled, so I paved, not paved, I chip sealed it over the whole thing again, because what we had chip sealed on top of the pavement that was there, and I'm talking from Route 89 to the Baird Road and including the hill, that used to be in pavement, that was deteriorated, it needed to have something done. So we chip sealed it about 3, 4 years maybe, but we covered it over again this year. It strips, and when I say that, what I'm talking about is the plow that comes along and it just peels the chip seal right off and you're back down to the asphalt surface. Take a ride tomorrow. You won't see it on the Powers Road now because it was done this year, but you can see it on Limestone Street, and it's starting to wear all together, so you don't notice it as much. But I look at that stuff all the time, and I'm not saying that we can't ever do that. I'm just saying that we want to be careful where we do it. That's all. And we definitely can have conversations at any given time after in a council meeting if you choose to do that. I mean, we try to get a list ahead of time, and if we use the tool, the streets that Mr. Gleason has presented to you guys tonight are the streets that are in need according to the tool. That, like he said, that can change very much over the winter, so we really shouldn't be nailing down to any streets that we will be doing, whether it's chip sealing or asphalting until springtime.
Anything else? All right. Recreation, is that where we are?
recreation, page 84. So the full-time and regular part-time recreation staff is as follows: the superintendent's of Parks and Rec, the director of recreation, recreation programmer, the administrative assistant, and one janitor at 20 hours a week. The regular pay line 1-01 salary line is up and includes $19,197 for wage adjustments. The part-time salaries line 1-03 is up by $19,000 as we're moving a janitor from the Parks Department to the Recs Department. The person currently only works in the Rec Center, so it makes more sense to budget for them in the recreation rather than in Parks. The Recreation Department would also be greatly impacted by the minimum wage increase should the voters of Maine choose to enact those changes, as most of the seasonal and program-specific staff are paid in that minimum wage range. Health insurance line 18-01 is up based upon changes in the plan selection we know are coming for 2017. Heating fuel line 26-01 is down for the year based upon the historical gallons used. The rest of the budget has very few changes. For capital improvements, we're requesting $900 for computer replacements. We'll need to replace 2 computers in 2018. In 2017, we're replacing the north-facing doors at the rec center. As such, we're requesting $5,000 in the reserve account for that. We're requesting $7,000 towards a new recreation van. The Caribou Rotary Club has pledged $8,000 towards the purchase of a van, which is estimated to be $30,000. This $7,000 will allow us to purchase the van in 2017. We're also proposing to continue using the money being saved from not having the swimming pool and putting that towards the splash pad. We anticipate a splash pad could be constructed in 2018. That was pushed back from the 2016 goal that we had because of the new school project and the Teague Park and pool site being in flux.
Just one question, wasn't there something about a new or a new 3/4 ton truck or something, or?
That's in the Parks Department?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yep.
Yes.
How old is the rec center? 7 years? 8?
8 years.
And we need new doors?
That's on the side that's 35 years old,
Oh, okay.
the north side.
They've done well then.
They've done very well, but it's due. It's definitely due.
Anything else? 93, Parks?
So in the Parks Department, the full and regular part-time staff consists of the following: the director of park maintenance and 1 part-time janitor. Parks Department would be greatly impacted by the minimum wage increase should the voters of Maine choose to enact those changes as well. Most of the seasonal and program-specific staff are paid minimum wage. We anticipate some overtime being necessary for the director of parks, as that position is moved from exempt to non-exempt as part of the FLSA adjustments. And 1 janitor position has been moved from this department to the rec. That's why the salaries line 1-07 is down. For capital improvements, we're requesting $11,000 in park improvement reserve for 2017, with some of the work that will be needed to be done to help create the park where the old Sincox School now sits. We'll be utilizing the funds from here. The 1985 pickup truck that was currently needs to be replaced. We're requesting $5,000 for that, which would give us $19,000 to purchase that truck. We're planning on replacing the 2007 zero-turn mower in 2017. We're requesting $1,500 towards that. Civic beautification reserve request is staying the same from last year at $1,000. We've budgeted $4,000 in Collins Pond Park improvements. The boardwalk is starting to need some attention, and we would like to replace a few picnic tables there as well. In 2018, we'll need to replace the 2007 Skidoo Scandic that is used to groom the ski trails. For that purchose, we're setting aside $3,000 in 17 and 18 to purchase that in 2018.
What about the 1-ton dump truck?
We finally found, we've been looking all over the place to find a truck. We have found one. We found in 2005 F-350, 1 ton with dually with the dump body with 18,000 miles. So the price on that was 18, and I was able to negotiate it down to 16.2. That would replace a truck that we've had since '85. Went down and looked at the truck. The truck is in very, very good shape for the year. Absolutely zero rust on it. The truck would make a great purchase. It would make a great truck for our needs. I have looked and looked and looked, but the only thing that we found that was in our price range and that was relatively really good on mileage, and 18,000 miles on a 2005 is pretty impressive.
They replaced the dump truck that you used on the trail?
Correct.
Oh, good lord, we'll get rid of that.
That would replace it.
Where'd you find this truck?
Down in New Hampshire.
So I'm now confused. Is that this truck that's in the capital improvements request? That's the dump truck. Thank you.
Anything else? Eric?
As a whole, this department is only up slightly over previous years. Electricity line 27-11 and water line 2805 are increased due to rate changes that's been discussed earlier. Building maintenance, line 31-01 is up by 1,000. There are a few maintenance items with the insulation and the hanger we need to take care of next year. Runway lights, 156-01 is being increased based upon the previous year's usage. The current agreement with the FBO is set to expire at the end of 2017. The airport committee should meet this year in 2017 at some point and discuss options for moving forward in the future. For capital improvements, we're recommending the $7,500. That's the 5% cost share of a project that would be based upon our entitlement funds through the FAA.
Any questions?
Didn't I just put new runway lights in or upgrade some of them?
Brand
Huh?
back in 11?
Oh, I thought it was later than that.
The lights weren't done as part of the whole rehab project. They were done earlier than that.
And because it is being increased
I thought
based
they were
on the
done since
past
I've
2
been
years'
here. I've only been
usage.
here 4 years.
2011, they were. Was it 11?
It was 10 or 11, it was somewhere.
Would you-
They had an efficiency main grant, they put those in.
Yeah, well, what does it mean, being increased because of 2 years' usage?
So both years we've had some issues with the electrical lines. The lights themselves are new, but the wires connecting them, we've had some issues there.
Yeah.
And then one of them we had an issue in the vault with heat to keep the lights running in the winter, making sure the breaker box doesn't freeze up on us.
So it's not the lights themselves, it's the supporting equipment,
That'd be fair.
part of the infrastructure?
Right.
Okay.
Part of the infrastructure of the lights.
All right, because I was thinking maybe we get some premature issues here with the lights that we purchase.
No, it's the supporting infrastructure for the lights.
Okay, thank you.
Trailer park.
Trailer park budget has been relatively stable in the past several years. The electricity line 27-11 is being adjusted down based upon the historical numbers. Water line 2805 is being increased. As the trailer park is being served by a well, we have to pay for the testing and maintenance of that. For future years, we're looking at the possibility of connecting to CUD and the grants that might be out there for that. Streetlights, line 105-01 are up slightly. If we move to LED streetlights, we could see substantial savings in that line. At the end of each year, whatever is received in revenue over what is expenses put into the trailer park reserve.
How many trailers you still got there?
13?
Is there ever any end?
As people move out, we don't allow new people move in.
There's no date like with the FAA or anything?
No.
So you're far enough away from the...
Right. I mean, if we wanted to look at requiring people to move out and paying to have that done, we could have that conversation, but
Most of them that's there wouldn't make them.
We know all about that from the last time.
Yeah. Trailers wouldn't be
There was a trailer that was auctioned off up there this summer, is that gone? Or is it going to be moved?
There's still one up there with the skirting knot around it.
That's the one.
That's been taken up, the trailer's still there.
So, because it no longer belongs to the original residents and it's been sold to somebody else, is it not supposed to be moved according to? Okay.
and they're aware of that. And they have a plan to move it, but I guess I don't know when that's supposed to happen. But
Have we given them a no later then by any chance?
no.
Winter's coming, that's all I'm saying.
Well, I was just looking at future years, looking to connect to the CUD for the water, which may cost some money. I was just wondering what, while you're,
Right.
the future.
We would definitely have to look at the cost benefit of that.
Yeah.
The only reason we would really consider that is there are a few grants out there to connect mobile home parks to utility districts. And if we can get, 3/4 of that cost covered, it would definitely make fiscal sense, but certainly a cost benefit analysis would have to be done at that time.
It's not so much the expense of the hooking up, because I don't think that'd be that bad, but it's the condition of the pipes during the ground. That them pipes are in bad shape.
Yeah, you'd have to replace those.
And the lines run right underneath the homes too. It's not like the lines was put in the back of the property and then fed up to it. The main lines run right underneath each and every one of them homes. So when you get a leak in underneath, you're in trouble.
Anything else? Cemetery.
We're factoring an increase for the Grimes Cemetery, lines 166-01, as we'll need to pay a private contractor to maintain that cemetery in 2017. Memorial Day flags, line 172-01, is down from 2016. We had it budgeted for $3,647 in 16. For 2017, the request is $600. The VFW and American Legion have done an inventory of what they need, and that's the amount they've requested.
Any questions? Insurance and retirement.
This budget has dropped substantially when we move Social Security and retirement costs from here to the individual departments. For 2017, we'll have to do a GASB 45 audit as part of the health insurance. That's reflected in line 7-02. The workers' compensation, line 34-01, has been removed from this department, broken out into the separate departments. Unemployment insurance, line 35-01, has increased slightly based upon our projection. We'll have firm numbers in November. Compensated absences, line 43-01, is funded at $50,000 for 2017. At the end of 2016, we anticipate the balance in the fund to be about $154,000. The total liability will be approximately $512,000. With this appropriation, we would have an unfunded liability of approximately $308,000. For several years, the city only put in $25,000 a year, which barely covered the cost of living adjustment increases. And for 2016, the council transferred funds from the fund balance into the compensated absences reserve. Recognitions and awards, line 46-01 is budgeted at $2,500. This is a small amount of money to do an employee recognition and appreciation dinner and give years of service certificates during 2017.
Yes.
Are we planning on buying any of these people out on compensated absences before the end of the year?
Yep, and that the people that we're anticipating to be bought out is factored into that fund balance that we would have 154 after those people are bought out.
And we would still have an unfunded of $308,000?
Correct.
This never ends.
Yeah, can we get, is there some kind of an accounting or breakdown we can get on that account? Because we have paid out a fair amount
Well, it was $1 million,
in the last
close
couple
to,
of
right?
years.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely come
It's
down.
800 and some thousand, wasn't it?
It's definitely come down, but and that 512,000, the total liability does include the 3.5% increase for 2017. So, January 1, 2017, the total liability would be approximately 512,000. December 31st, you're still on this side of the pay scale adjustment.
Right now, what do we have in that account? 240,000?
Something in that neighborhood.
And you have requests to do cash in. How many people?
7, I believe.
And
And that's just the vacation time. The council only allotted vacation time to be cashed out, and not the
Yeah.
sick time.
you know. And we were gonna do that once a year at the end of the year or something, weren't we?
Correct. Yep. 229,000 is what was in that account as of the end of September.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Unclassified.
Unclassified mainly covers two areas. The tax lien cost 200-01 is at 18,000 based upon historical data, and abatements 201-01 is at 20,000 based upon historical data. The bad debt write-off is at zero for this year as the facility Inc.'s receivable line has been cleared up. For 2017, we're proposing to use that money to clear up the negative balance in the Grimes Mill Road engineering, which is part of the capital improvement budgets. Talked about it with the Public Works Department.
Did they pay? Or is that written off?
That was written off.
We didn't pay.
That's why we budgeted 20,000 in 15 and 20,000 in 16 to write off those bad debts.
So they paid.
As part of the pilot that the council approved with them in 2015, the council agreed to wipe off those old debts, those old 40,000,
So
and
they're paying something now?
they're paying something today, correct?
Anything else? Capital improvements?
So the majority of the capital improvement requests have been discussed in the various departments. The capital improvement budget is being presented in its entirety here. The only two that have not been discussed are as follows. We continue to put aside $1,500 for downtown infrastructure needs. This is reserved to help us replace streetlights, repair brick pavers, streetlight poles, those types of things. The other item is the biomass boiler debt repayment. That repayment for 2017 is $95,827.
All right. And then we're into economic development.
So staff in the Economic Development Department is the city manager. 50% of my time is there, along with the marketing and event coordinator. This department really did not have much for expenditures until 2014. At that time, we started to use the funds set aside in the downtown TIF district for economic development. The advertising line, line 3-02, is down slightly as we look to reprioritize our advertising campaign. And travel expenses, the meals and lodging line 10-02, and conference fees 10-04 is up for the ICMA conference. We continue to put away $10,000 a year for the trail groomer in line 238-01. We also continue to set aside $50,000 a year for the revolving loan fund in line 280-01. For 2017, we're not continuing our contract with Buxton, but as we shift gears in economic development, we are looking to complete a study utilizing an outside company to help us work towards broadband internet citywide. We're setting aside $50,000 for this in line 281-04. For 2017, community projects are adjusted slightly. Thursdays on Sweden, we are budgeting lower for 2017 as we continue to have great success with doing sponsorships for these events. Caribou Days, previously called Caribou Cares About Kids Days, is budgeted at $2,000. As Caribou will be hosting the Moose Lottery in the spring, we're setting aside $5,000 for that event. We'll also be putting in $2,000 for miscellaneous projects. These are funds for things like the decorating contest, various advertisings for the projects in the fall. That fall into more than one category, and those are all lumped into the miscellaneous projects. For 2016, we had the first year of the Slum and Bright removal and facade improvement programs. As this was the first year, we did not know what to expect for requests. For 2017, we're budgeting based upon the usage rate for this year. That would allow for 2 demolition grants and 3 facade improvement grants.
Where were the facade improvements grants done? Was there 3 done this year? Is that what we're saying here?
We had we assisted Mahoney Real Estate with their step project in the front of their building.
With their which?
The steps in front of their real estate building here on High Street. The FAP body building, they'd been approved for windows. They have not yet completed that project, so I'm not sure if they're going to be utilizing the grant funds or not. And Plord and Plord was awarded a grant to help with their buildings on Laureate Street. They're not sure if they're going to be able to utilize those grant funds this year or not. So.
Chamber and the Nylander.
The Central Aroostook Chamber of Commerce has requested $12,000 for 2017. The council needs to decide whether or not they want to fund that request. I told them that we would likely get to this department on Tuesday night, but we're breezing right along here, so I do expect somebody to be here tomorrow night from the chamber to talk more about that request. As the Nylander Museum Board is becoming much more active in having the Nylander open on a regular basis, we're budgeting for a few items that are necessary for them. Office supplies, line 3-08, will provide some paper and other items. This also covers an update to the museum software and exhibit materials. As there is not someone in the Nylander as often as when the chamber was housed there, the temperature will be turned down and we don't need as much heating fuel, so that line 26-03 has been reduced. The same goes for electricity in line 27-11. Building maintenance, line 31-01 is up for 2017. The ramp to the building needs work to be fixed. The board received a quote for that and it came in at just under $13,000. I know they are looking to find grants for that work as well, but we've budgeted for the full cost just in case. The board is also requesting janitorial service, line 68-01 in the amount of $5,180. The breakdown for this is the initial cleaning cost of $2,300, monthly cleaning costs at $140 a month, and a thorough quarterly cleaning for $300 per quarter. I know the Nylander board also anticipated us getting to this piece of the budget discussions tomorrow night, and so they were planning on being here tomorrow night as well to discuss that further with the council.
One question, and I don't know if we know, but I guess we could look it up. What did we transfer to the Aroostook, or what was transferred to the Aroostook Chamber last year when it was changed over? I have $33,000 in my head, but I don't know if that's right or not, if it's another number.
26,000 in my head.
How much?
I had around 26,000 in my head for some reason, so it's got to be a fair amount.
The number I had in my head was in the 20s.
Yeah.
And that was the chamber money, and we can work to try and find that number out.
Yeah.
Do you know if the Nylander's getting any more traffic through there?
They are. They've got all that information prepared to share with the council tomorrow night. But
Yeah. Any other questions on that right now? Housing and self-sufficiency.
all right. There are two staff people in the housing department, which is the executive director and the FFS coordinator. In 2016, we started running all the expenses for the housing department through the city accounting software. Previous to that, many of the expenses were paid for out of the housing checking account. Now the housing department reimburses the city. Because of this, there are a lot of items that are being budgeted for in 2017 that have not been budgeted before. The numbers that are budgeted are based upon the historical expenses of these line items previously. It's also important to remember that previous to 2013, housing and code enforcement were one department. As such, the graph for this department only goes back to 2013.
Any questions on the housing? Family self-sufficiency.
So this is a part of the housing department. The program is funded entirely through a grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. The Family Self-Sufficiency FSS program enables families assisted through the Housing Choice Voucher HCV program to increase their earned income and reduce their dependence on welfare. For the past 2 years, we've used the fund balance of the FSS grant to pay for the health insurance. That balance will be exhausted by the end of the year. The grant amount does not cover the full amount or the full health insurance costs that we provide in the health insurance buyout option rather than the health insurance option for 2017. This grant only pays for salaries and benefits of the coordinator. It's tracked through its own budget department to ensure proper tracking of the grant funds. Without this grant, we would not have this position.
Any questions? Snowmobile trail maintenance.
So the snowmobile trail maintenance is also funded entirely from grants through the state. Any excess money that we receive in a year is put into the fund balance of the department and utilized in the future in the event there's a deficit. Typically, we have 3 or 4 people that run the groomers in the winter, which makes up the salary line. When they reach 40 hours in a week, we do have to pay them overtime. The cell phone line 15-11, is up in the department by $66, and that's the only change in this department from 2016.
Anything there? No?
Can I go back to the FSS?
Yeah.
On the grant for the FSS, do we, when we submit that, do we submit an estimated cost for that? So when we submit the grant for 2017, we're gonna request an increase in salary slash benefits to cover the insurance?
For 2017, we requested just over $57,000 in total, and the 48,729 is what they said they would give us. So we've already been awarded the grant for 2017, which is a few months earlier than the past couple of years.
Yeah, normally you don't get it until in the spring from last year. So it actually came in on time.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
So we've got the grant for 2017. The amount awarded is the 48,729, which shows in the revenue line there.
Anything else? I guess we're not doing revenues now, Austin, but do you want to comment on revenues here at all, or?
I mean, the only thing we really want to make council aware of is, once again, the legislature increased the homestead exemption from 10 to 15,000 in 2016, and they left the amount that will be reimbursed by the state to 50%. For 2017, that's increasing again to $20,000. The amount being reimbursed by the state is moving up to 62.5%. So that increases the amount of the homestead exemption reimbursement that we expect to collect by nearly $300,000. And the rest of the revenue numbers are there, but we had not planned on getting into the discussion on those until next year.
Have they been looked at from the standpoint of the city? I guess the only comment that I would make right now, and maybe it's all done, I don't know, but when I read through all these expenses, and I'm reading about, 3.5% in wages, 3% in energy, and everything is going up, a fair amount. When we look at the things that we're doing for other communities, and the things that we're collecting revenues from here in the city, whether that's dog licenses or whatever, are we putting them up at the same rates, or do we just leave them? And 'cause I know many times in the past, they've just been left.
Dog license fees are set by the state. We have no control over what
Okay.
we can charge for those.
Title records set by the state.
Fire records set by the state.
Motor vehicle.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of things that we can really increase when it comes to fee increases like that. Last time we looked at that was 2013. We increased the rates for copying and faxing, and we came out to be about $1,500 or so that I think we saw the increase. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot that we can do to increase.
Then we have to take a look as well at ambulance services, fire services, billing. Our costs are going up at these levels, and we very seldom seem to pass it on. It's only fairly recently that we've even tried to increase some of these costs, and they should definitely be going up at least what we're going up. Otherwise, whatever those expenses are, it's all coming back on the taxpayers in the city to subsidize it, not the taxpayers in the areas we're servicing. They're the ones that get the great deal. Everybody in Caribou suffers because of it, so.
Good luck with that. I tried that, remember? This spring, I couldn't even get a second.
When we are getting ready to bring to council the contracts for the fire and ambulance rates, and is there a dollar amount the council would like to see increase, or just a percentage increase?
Well, I think we should be looking at what our costs are going up and saying, this is the same area we should be looking at putting those at.
So 3.5%, 4%?
Well, Scott, can you give us, like, say for instance you do, I know we're not doing Woodland anymore, is that correct? Okay. Westmoreland, okay.
Yeah.
But say you have a town, just say Washburn, okay? And you're gonna do that, can we have a breakdown of what it costs versus what we bring in,
I've got all that done.
okay, per town that we do?
Council has to be very aware,
Yeah, that's,
very fine line
yeah.
on what we charge other communities and increases. There's a very fine line there, because they don't cost us money to go to them. Our staff and all of our expenses come from our community. Every contract we have only makes up 230 calls a year out of 2,400 calls. So if we lost all of the contracts tomorrow, it doesn't change our staffing or equipment or manpower. Everything stays exactly the same.
Well, maybe not. I mean, if you don't have the extra towns that you go to,
It's only 230 calls a year out of 2,400. It doesn't
Okay.
account for our staffing. We staff for the city.
okay.
That adds to our overall revenue line. So that's why I said there's a very fine line
Yeah,
there.
but- Yeah, okay, well, just, you know, because I don't think we should be, we're not losing money then on
So, no,
the,
it's a hard concept, but when you start to look at it, everything that we do outside of the city is 230 calls out of 2,400. It's,
10%.
we staff for the city of Caribou.
So and I haven't done the math on these, but we do have council does see the revenues that we take in for fire calls, for example. And in the monthly reports that we've been providing to the council, you can see how many calls we've done to those outside locations. When we can do that math and show those numbers for what it cost, or
well, yeah.
hours versus what we take in.
Because whether or not we're staffing for the whole thing, it's costing, if we didn't have to go, sorry, if we didn't have to go to a fire in another town, for instance, that we've got a contract with, well, then we wouldn't have to pay for the gas to go there and the manpower and to call the extra people in to man the station while you go there. So there's a cost associated with
I
all
have
that.
all
Okay. And we're making sure that we've got more money that we take in on our contracts.
Not even close.
It's not even close.
We take in more.
We take in more than.
Way more money than we pay out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So what would council like to do? We've got a meeting scheduled tomorrow night. Do you want to start back beginning of this and start
I can hit it
looking at changes that need to be made, or we think need to be made, or discussion on changes, or?
Yeah, plus we got some people coming in that want a shot at it.
All right. And, I mean, I know we have a sequence here, but I guess if there's people coming in, Austin, that
We can jump it.
we can go out of sequence.
Right, this is all set up to be very much a conversational thing, so
Yeah.
I mean, we had a tentative agenda which we kind of blazed through.
Yeah,
So it's very fluid.
yeah,
these
we'll,
public
I mean,
forums.
if somebody's coming in from the chamber, for instance, well, we'll talk about the chamber. All right. All right, everybody in agreement? Sorry, go ahead, David.
So, if your proposed budget is passed 100%, what's your mill rate increase?
Of 2 3/4?
Well, no, he's got an increase in revenue here. What are you anticipating for,
I haven't looked at a mill rate, I guess, in all honesty.
well, what's
The
a mill,
dollar-
what's a mill raise?
Roughly 384,000.
Okay, and your proposed budget is how much?
$9,789,000.
How much?
So you're talking 2+ mills.
Right. So it'd be $480,000 more in taxes raised in 2017 than we had raised in 2015. 607,000 more than what we raised in 2016.
And is the state increasing the local share again for the school from 8 point whatever to, they've been doing that, right?
Who knows what's going to happen? There's the referendum question on the 3% tax for those making over 200,000. That would definitely change things for the school department. If they pass any of those savings along to the taxpayers, would be up to the school board. But with the legislature in session, going to be in session next year, we really have no idea what to expect on school budget formulas, revenue sharing, or anything like that.
Revenue sharing doesn't come out till April, correct?
Typically, it's late April, yeah.
School budget comes out, the numbers come out, tentative numbers come out in February.
And then those get revised again in April or May.
Why we're not on the same calendar.
And then they'll get passed and we'll go from there. All right, anything else for tonight?
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.